Welcome on to Searching for Mana, Rodolphe.
Thank you, Lloyd. Happy to be here.
Pleasure to have you on the show. How was the pronunciation? That was good, Rodolphe?
That's perfect, almost French.
Thank you very much. Rodolphe Ardant, the founder and CEO with Spendesk. Incredibly exciting updates recently. Big round, 100 million raise with some of the leading venture capitalists in the world, such as Tiger Global, who are absolutely on it at the moment. So very interested to go into how that raise was with them. The business at the moment, just for some context, has over 400 staff in multiple European territories. And I think at the core of it, trying to help SME, small, medium enterprise businesses manage their expenses and finances a lot more also. So I'd like to start with get you to explain to the audience, what is Spendesk you're doing right now and what you're up to.
Happy to. The mission of Spendesk, what we are doing is how we can help businesses and liberate them with their employees from all the constraints that comes with payment. How we enable people to access the payments method of the company when they need it, whatever the payment method can be, whatever the use case can be. They need to purchase online, they need to purchase on the ground if they are traveling, in a way where they would be autonomous with the company money while providing finance team with all the control, all the compliance, all the automation that they need to get their job done. So this is what we do. We build this 7-in-1 spend management platform that really encompasses every process when it comes to managing or spending the company money, that really create this collaboration between the operational team, the guys that need to purchase for their company, and the finance team that need to control where the company money is going.
Which, when you say it like that, feels so obvious and such a efficiency. How could companies possibly not have operated with a Spendesk previously? But I assume the case is that they didn't. How did you see that opportunity? How obvious was it that this solution would be adopted?
I think I had two Kafkaesque or enlightening moments in my previous career. The first one was when my first company was acquired by a bigger French company, like 20,000 people, so large organization. I had this situation where we had to always find workaround around the finance process, which was very rigid and were not enabling the operational agility that we were seeking when we were purchasing things. And honestly, Lloyd, at that time I was thinking, okay, this is big company stuff, it's not for me, I'm going back to the agile world. And I moved to a company called Drivy, where I was handling finance. Small company, like the agility here, you have this operational efficiency with a lot of empowerment.
And you were the COO there?
I was a COO, and I had the finance team in my scope. And I understood how much this agile working culture, this distributed ownership was totally chaotic from a financial perspective. So we had no view towards who were spending what in the company. Unlimited amount of time spent on getting receipt, invoice, ensuring the compliance towards where the company money was doing. And so basically we were losing control on the money of the company.
And Rod, what, for context, what roughly year was that?
It was in 2013, 2014.
Did you have things like Xero at this point starting to come into?
Yeah, we had the accounting solution. Yeah. The accounting was not the problem. The problem was more about how we enable people. We come from this very startups culture at that time where everyone can make decisions on the business. So I remember in these early days, everyone had the card number of the CEO so they could make purchase very quickly without being blocked, right? This is the kind of operational agility that you want to have in the early days because there are so much things to do and you need to move very fast. As you grow, you start losing control. Everyone is spending the company money, but there is no context and you cannot track it and finance team cannot do their job. So basically you're losing control. And what we did is what every company is doing, and you start centralizing this process, saying to the team, hey, no, finance own the payments method. You need to come to finance to make a spending, etc. And that's why I came highly frustrated, just because I believe in this kind of working culture, but it didn't work for finance, whereas it worked for all the other functions of the company. Engineering, you've got version control like Git, allowing you to develop autonomously features and collaboratively with the rest of the team. Sales, same, marketing, the same, but for finance, not the case. And that's why I was thinking, okay, maybe we've got payment is not working so much in the workplace. And I start interviewing finance leaders, finance people, just to understand if there was a problem. And I learned two critical things at that time, showing me that there was a very strong opportunity to solve. The first one is absolutely no one was satisfied by their payment experience at work. It's like, in our private life, payment, it's seamless, it's transparent, it's flexible. I don't know if it's a good thing, but you don't even see payment nowadays, right? You click on a button, you've got things delivered to you at your home. You don't see payment anymore. At work, it's tedious, it's bureaucratic, it's cumbersome. It's like it's really a new something that's you're not used to.
I mean, you say that when I pulled into the station. Came off the Eurostar this morning and then got a taxi, which clearly just took me round the block to here and charged me 58 euros from there. That's 100 yards away. We had to go to a cash point because SumUp, the payment solution, wasn't working because he couldn't get reception. But I know what you mean. 99% of the time, it's very seamless. And I've set up many SME businesses. And I feel this pain where you have delegated authorities. So I was the CEO of a small business previously, but I have to go through my finance function for certain types of expenses where it feels like a strategic decision to do it now. And then if that finance person doesn't get to it till the next day, you might have missed the opportunity. It's absolutely bonkers.
It is. So this payment experience really sucks. And the second thing I learned at that time is that everyone was telling me, it sucks, but that's the norm. We're used to it. You expect when you enter to a company to have this process for expense management, this process for purchase management, going to the finance team to get an invoice paid, going to the finance team to get a card to make a payment. So it shows that there is a pain and everyone is working in a status quo. So, okay, let's change. Let's try if we can find a new way of doing things. And what Spendesk was in the early days, saying, okay, how we can rebuild this process, integrating the financial technology, so the payments method into this process to empower people, to access them in the company in a professional context. So money needs control. It's how we enable people to spend money which is not theirs, right? It's always when we think about this, money is emotional. It's something that we need to have control on. If you're asking yourself, Lloyd, who would you give full access to your bank account from your closest friends? It's like, okay, maybe not, right? It's the same for a business. So how we can put this level of control in a very distributed way?
Yeah, and you mentioned there's several different types of streams to the full platform. I'm assuming visualization is one of the massively useful things as well. So do you have different levels of authority where, let's say, for me, for the business that I operate, I'm able to set different types of controls for different departments, and I can visually see how things are moving on a daily basis?
Yeah, so basically what you want to do is money, it's a constrained resource, right? If your business goes out of money, you go out of business. So you need to, how you can provide for every buyer in the company, your employees, people working with you, the context on the decision they make when they need to make a purchase. Because if you make this type of purchase, it means that someone else in the company cannot make this type of purchase. So it all comes from the budget that you allocate to them. And then you link to this budget all the payments method, being a cards payments, being an expense reimbursement, being supplier invoice payments that are linked in real time into this budget. So people have this autonomy, they've got the full context, but all this financial data goes directly to the finance team with the right level of control. Approval flows if you need, depending on your working culture, saying, okay, this is the budget owner, so this person needs to have a yes or a no if you can or cannot spend this type of purchase, and really getting all these flows into a single one that finance can automate and manage directly into your accounting software, your ERP, your Xero, or your Sage.
So Rod, that feels incredibly logical. You find yourself in this 20,000 person corporate that you've been inquired into as an entrepreneur at that point. So it takes a certain type of person to then have the conviction that you can go do it. Could you, so we understand the concept, but could you explain the journey of then actually breaking free, taking that risk, going and doing it? How did you do that?
That's a very good question. The approach that we had at the beginning, so maybe first thing, before starting solving this problem, I really thought deeply, having been an entrepreneur once, why I would like to restart a business, right? We know that the entrepreneurial journey is not an easy one. It's kind of a roller coaster.
List the top 3 reasons. Sleep, sanity.
But it was clear to me that I wanted to restart a business at the end for 2 main reasons. One, if I had the opportunity to really make a difference, and by make a difference is trying to build a new standard on something, creating a new norm. This is something that really excited me. And when we're thinking about payment, it's saying, okay, if we can create the new standard of payment at work, by standard, I really mean when we look backwards saying how we did in the past, right? You become the standard, you become the new norm. And this is the ambition of what we want to do at Spendesk. And the second one was, okay, I want to restart a business to have the opportunity to really create a great organization. Someone, the kind of company you're very proud of, and when you spend time in this company, you look backward and say, these 2 years, 3 years, 5 years I spent in this company was just the best moment of my professional career. So I wanted that the space and the problem we solve could be, a big problem, but very huge to have this capacity to build a new standard, not knowing if we are going to, to reach that at that time, but really thinking, okay, I want to spend time, effort, energy to at least try. And so when we started with, okay, this concept saying, okay, payment at work sucks, there is a status quo, let's reinvent the new way, so creates this new standard. You cannot have a holistic approach saying, okay, I'm going to solve everything from day one. So the approach we had was, let's take every use case when someone needs to spend the company money and solve this use case in a very good way. And the first use case that we started to solve was online purchasing.
Yeah.
Online purchasing, just because this is something that didn't exist much 15 years ago, so it's not adapted to the traditional finance process.
Yeah.
It pissed finance teams off because you need to have a card to pay online, and card is something you cannot control. And so when company grows, they tend to put constraint on that, saying, okay, no more online payments because we cannot control them. So you ask your suppliers an invoice. It doesn't work. It's just a website. I need to click on a button, but I still need to get these goods and services. And that's the first opportunity we started to tackle, and that's what created the MVP, so the minimum viable product for Spendesk. And then we go through our vision, step by step, by solving every different use case where an employee or a budget owners need to access or to pay for their company.
And from the 2 clear objectives that you had for why you would found a business again, one is what you've just talked through and the process of successfully tranching into the space. And then the other was to have a company and a culture that you'd be really proud of separately. Which has been harder?
The 2 goals for me, I don't have a goal that is a priority amongst the other one. The 2 are the one is more about the what, the ambition, where we want to, what's the collective achievement that we want to achieve, that we want to have. The second one is more the how. Who are we? What is our identity?
Yeah.
What type of business we want to be? When we make decisions, what kind of trade-off are we ready to make?
Have you read Creativity Inc.?
No.
Oh, it's an incredible book. I will put the book in the show notes and send one to you. It's the story of the Pixar studio, which is obviously very famous because Steve Jobs was a collaborator in building this. But actually what's incredible about it is really how little they talk about the stories we know and the genius that went on that side, and how much it talks about the organization and how they build it so that collaboration and creativity was just deeply rooted in the values. I walked around your amazing offices here in Paris, and I see books laid out in on different tables, and immediately I'm like, okay, this is interesting. There's some very strong values here that are being represented and put around. Could you talk us through some of those? What are some of your really strong values and beliefs that makes this culture great?
Yeah, I'm a huge believer of working culture that rely on at least two main principles. One is trust, and the second one is freedom. By trust, I believe in working culture that really empower people to make decisions on their scope and on the business. And it comes back to what our product does, right? It's how we can empower people with the company money. So that's the type of working culture that we want to support. The second one, by freedom, I mean how we can remove all the constraints that people have that just prevent them to be efficient in their job. So that's the overall philosophy of the type of organization, how we work together, that we are building. In terms of who we are at Spendesk, we've got cultural pillars or value that we try to embed into our operating system. And one is the ownership, this sense of power of decision making and how we empower people to make decisions on their business, make decisions on their scope. Second one is about the ambition, going back to the first goal, what we want to build together. So really the kind of bold objectives, or how we are stretching ourselves to at least try achieving something. The way how we work is really about caring, a very strong sense of culture of service. The culture of service for me, Lloyd, is how you, in the actions you do, in the behaviors you have, you always think about the outcome of the person you serve, being your customers, your teammates, your partners. And the first one is, the journey, and it really resonates with the entrepreneur journey. It's not an easy one. It's a tough one, going from a white page with the ambition of creating a multi-billion-dollar business. It's going to be totally against the heart. So new things are going to break, new problems will arise every day. So the choice of getting a positive mindset, so as I was saying, an optimist one, is something that we encompass.
Absolutely. I think I spend a lot of my time trying to coach mindset more than anything else in the business I have, where we're trying to collaborate, we're trying to serve our partners, similar types of things, earlier phase than yours. But it's that mentality of always trying to look at everything as an opportunity to improve your systems. You can't let it get you down. You have to appreciate there's going to be struggle along the way. You're building something, right? You're putting something new into the ether that should, level up what has experienced before, like you say, a new standard of payments for companies. What would be really great, Rod, is to now understand you as the person, and perhaps that will give us an insight into, where the, so far incredible success has come from, but also, the conviction that you can go do this. And so we were talking before recording about your childhood. So perhaps if we could start there, because it's a good way for the audience to understand a bit about you. So really the first time that you started to think about who you might be and what you might do when you grew up.
That's a very good question. I had, so I'm the second of four. My father used to work in a bank.
What type of bank?
At BNP Paribas, so retail bank.
Okay. Yeah.
Retail bank. International career. So we moved, every 3 years from a country to another one.
Yeah, amazing.
With the whole family.
Interesting.
Which was great as a kid because you
Favorite
discover.
place?
So we lived in Italy, then in Greece, then in Tunisia, then back to France. It's hard to say favorite because you've got you link the different countries with a specific age of your child, which are very different. Right? True. Teenage age is not kids' age.
Did you pick up the languages?
I did. I lost them.
Yeah. But still, that's
it comes back.
Very good
it comes back quickly.
And,
it comes back quickly.
Cool.
As a kid, I don't know. As a kid, I think I always liked solving problems, and particularly for others. I grew up with an autistic brother, so maybe this sense of service and how I can solve for the others came somehow from that.
You have, of course, different ranges. What with your brother, and so it's often talked about, isn't it, that people with autism can also have exceptional focus and incredibly bright and really great memory retention, but then some of the side that I think could be lower is emotional intelligence. What did you find, like with your brother? What was the?
I think it's hard to put generalities here. On my experience, I lived different. It was not the same. But my friends, etc. When you bring friends to house, you have to explain. You have to say, hey, my brother is not like everyone.
Yeah.
So it creates a position as a kid where you are very curious and you are very open on the others. Is this a skill that you develop? I don't know. But when we went back to France, all the family, the fact that we had this, particular family setup, and that we moved around many different countries, it created, I think, a sense of curiosity that I didn't find much in the teammates or schoolmates that from people that were just staying at the same place since the younger ages. But to go back on your question on when I started to think about entrepreneurship and building I think it was really an engineering school when I started to think, I can build things, I can code things, I can build product, I can, I can put ideas into motions and starting to see, what would be the impact of this idea?
Was there an inspiration at that point? Because your father obviously has a great, but a corporate career, let's say, at BNP. You have this experience where moving around countries or moving around schools tends to allow, from what I've seen, from the trends across many interviews, people to have that outside perspective on things. You see this with a lot of entrepreneurs. It's really interesting. But often also there's something or someone to emulate. Like, why would you do this? So you've got engineering. Engineering is amazing at teaching you in your hands. You can create something. There's output on the other side of your actions. Was there something at that point that was really cool to you and made you inspired to be an entrepreneur?
I think France, at that time in the engineering campus, we were strong builders and I was more, very theoretical in my approach. Love math, etc. But I understood that we could put something into motion. And I found people with a very entrepreneurial mindset, and I was very excited by the kind of project we could build together. And that's, I think, the moment, the tipping point. And that's, just after school, I created the first business with a friend from school. So, and we, at school, we were working on the startup love kind of project, but it was the beginning of this motion.
And talking to anybody in the audience who might be, in or just out of education and entrepreneurial, which has become more and more popular right now. And I always think that if you have a deep technical skill set, then you can go do this immediately, potentially. If it's disrupting something in professional services, you typically are better off to go work in a company and experience what the landscape is to be able to disrupt. But you just went out the calf with an engineering skill set. What would you recommend to the audience from that lesson? Or maybe it was the best thing to do, or would you say, actually, I could have taken a different path?
I think we made all the mistakes that engineers can do in building the first business, honestly, at that time. The biggest one, which is still the most common one, building a very thorough technical solution that we enjoyed developing because it was challenging, etc. That was not solving any business problem. But this is the most classical one, but that's where we learn. I don't have a recommendation. I think, when we created our first company, things didn't went as expected. We pivoted 3 times before finding the right business model and the right idea, and then everything went very fast and we got acquired, etc. But the first 2 experiments were like, so many mistakes, it's not working, we're not paying ourselves, we're not getting any money, it's hard, we continue to live in our student life. Or friends from school, they got these jobs, they're starting to get very well paid, and you join them, for dinner, just for coffee, because you don't want to pay the bill. So this at some point, it's like, okay, what I'm doing with my life, and I think once you start being an entrepreneur and you see that you have a full control of the impact of your actions, and you understand, okay, this is actually what's giving me energy. Solving problems, see what's the vision of my directly the direct link between the outcome of your actions and what you do. And if it's something that really resonates for you, you should start from the scratch, because there is no entrepreneurial school. Obviously, you're going to learn from the field, from all the mess, all the things that are going to happen.
But Rod, you just raised 100 million from the biggest VCs in the world, and there's clearly been monumental effort, success along the way, learning curve, challenges, not being at the same level of being able to go for dinner with your friends, all these type of things, and then now it's wow, you're pinching yourself. Or is it like when Olympian gets the gold medal and they feel flat because they're like, okay, well now I've achieved like a landmark, and then they want to go beat that record again. How do you feel right now?
I'm really playing the infinite game here. Honestly, what's driving me, what's my main driver at work or at life is knowledge. It comes from my academic background or engineering background, but it's why I'm still learning, I'm very happy. When I'm solving problems, I'm very happy. So I'm putting milestones as goals. So saying, okay, let's build a unicorn. Oh, we'll see. If it happens, that's good. If it's not, we've been learning something along the way. And when the status start to happen, you're already thinking ahead, saying, okay, this is just a milestone. When the IPO is going, how we can become this norm, how we can become this standard of payment. This is an infinite game. It's not something that is, right? It's not something where you have a clear. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I understand that part about being intellectually curious, which sometimes when you're having to operate is something you need to protect. How are you managing to protect that through your week? Now, I'm sure you've got incredibly bright, curious, intellectual team around you who allow you to protect some of your time for the overall strategy that only you can have as the CEO of this business. But still, it'd be very interesting to understand if there's any habits, techniques, or just a view of your day and week you could give us.
I think you're entering in the challenge that I am having at the moment. Well spotted, thank you, Lloyd. It's hard. Today, definitely, I don't spend enough time looking forward. I'm still very much into the day-to-day of the business. My learning, and this is a learning I had in the last year, it seems very, very obvious when you say it, but when you bring people that can carry your bag in a better way than you do, then you can start refocusing on something else. And if we think about Spendesk 2 years ago, the organization, the team was all very young, included me, lacking a lot of experience in many fields, but really strong will, strong potential to learn. But the organization was basically, the CEO of the company with 20 direct reports. And at some point, it doesn't scale. So we started to structure organization, bringing more expertise in the field and people that can carry the bags for you. And then you start getting this time where the timeline of thoughts is no more a quarter or the next 6 months, but no, okay, next year, the next 2 years, the next 5 years, the next 10 years. It's a discipline. It's a change of the role of CEO, and particularly, in the early days, you don't need to have that. You just need to execute, because early days for startup, it's survival. It's just like, okay, do I have a business? Can I pay the team the next month or the next quarter? But at this stage of the business of Spendesk, raising 260 million of capital, a company of 400, it's still the very beginning of the company, but we're entering in another play where I feel that we cannot fail as a business anymore by failing, just getting out of money and just dying. But we clearly can fail our ambition and our mission.
Yeah.
And that's where my responsibility as the founder and the CEO of the company needs to shift my thinking towards the short term, towards the long term.
Yeah, absolutely. And Rod, I think that we'll do, if you'd be so kind, a whole other show where we dig into that, because I'd need more time. We've got several minutes, because your business is scaling so much. You've got things to go and do right now. So I'm just going to quick fire ask you just a few questions just over the next 5 minutes, so you don't miss your next appointment. In several years, and obviously you've only got 30 seconds for this, what could Spendesk be up to?
In several years, what we can be up to?
Yeah.
I think we can own B2B payments.
Okay, that's big. That's massive. So you take out Stripe?
No, Stripe is the infrastructure. We could rely and partner on them.
So you got Stripe and you guys as the biggest on the planet in several years.
We don't share the same part of the business.
Yeah.
But we give the context. Payment is the frontier of every exchange of businesses. We are the guys that are building this operating system. So the system you operate, not the rails, the system you operate, stakeholders operate.
They're the infrastructure. You're the system they're operating.
We manage the flows.
You own that.
Exactly.
What's the TAM of that?
Oh, that's a huge one.
B2B
payments, it's one, I think, it's $160 trillion per year, something like that.
No, this is why Tiger Group are in, right? Okay, I like it. Infinite ambition. You're on a Searching for Mana show. Mana is your magic, the essence. So in gaming, you have power, and then you have your mana. What would you say your mana is?
Resilience in patience.
Who do you recommend would be a brilliant character to come on to the Searching for Mana show?
That's a... Did you interview Jean-Charles from Alan?
No.
That's a good one.
There we go. We'll post that out to social and he can come on. Amazing. Thank you so much for your time. Cheers.
Bye.